I would like to give a little disclaimer so that we are all on the same page moving forward. And it is that for the most part of this series, I am going to make a lot of reference to my first and my second year in New York and also therapy. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And why am I making reference to my first and my second year in New York in therapy? Because my first and my second year played a very significant role in who I am currently in my fourth year in New York. And therapy is helping me unpack that to be able to thrive the way I'm supposed to thrive as a first generation African immigrant living in New York. Today, I'm going to share something very personal that anybody, not even just an immigrant, anybody who has ever had to endure a significant amount of stress because of change has somewhat experienced but didn't know what it was and thought they were going crazy. And it is depersonalization. My first experience with depersonalization was when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I know I haven't defined what it is. I just want to get this out of the way. My first experience with depersonalization was when I was about 4 or 5 years old. We were moving from Kumasi to Nigeria. Kumasi is a city in Ghana, a West African country, and Nigeria is also a West African country. Nigeria is where my mother is from. What made the trip stressful for me wasn't that we were traveling by road and it is a 9 to 12 hour drive, but I was very sick. I was extremely sick to the point that I could taste the sickness in my mouth. That's how that's how sick I was. And during the trip, as I was laying in the back of the car, I felt myself hovering out of myself and looking down at myself as I was going through so much pain during this trip. Then I didn't know what was going on, but that experience made that trip very significant to me that I can still remember it up till date. And I had similar of those experience, multiple of those type of experience in my first and my second year in New York. And it was so painful and so confusing. What made it painful was that I didn't know how to tell somebody I was going through that because I was confused. I thought I was going crazy. So if I go and tell somebody that this is what I'm going through, they would validate my thoughts. And I didn't want someone to validate my thoughts and affirm my craziness. I didn't want to be a crazy person in New York. And fast forward to now, I just had a name to that experience, which is depersonalization. Now let's get into the basics of what depersonalization is. Depersonalization is a mental and emotional phenomenon that one goes through, and during the experience of depersonalization, you feel detached and disconnected from yourself in an experience that is happening that you're looking in at the experience as it is happening in real life. It's like you are out of your body, but then the experience is happening, and then you can see yourself in that experience as it is happening. And during you watching in, it feels like a dream. It feels foggy. Time and space and your body becomes distorted, and you feel this emotional numbness. Fast forward to my first and my second year in New York when it used to happen a lot. I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on. And when it is happening and I'm able to calm myself down and get back into my body, when I enter my body, I'm still confused and I'm still trying to figure out like what is happening. So I am not present as I'm back in my body. So I lose those moments, I lose those conversations, I lose those experience. And it is the reason why I said in my previous video, the first episode, that I didn't remember a lot of things that happened in my first and my second year. And now in my third I'm in my fourth year, yeah. And now in my fourth year, I have a name to what I am experiencing. I've been given tools to cope with it. So it still happens, but when it happens, I am not confused. I know what to do to be able to enjoy the experience. Now I enjoy the experience. It's cool. What happens is that during my episode of depersonalization, what happens is that I can see myself outside my body and I am listening in onto the conversation, but then it sounds very muffled. It sounds very mechanical, and the whole atmosphere becomes a little bit foggy and then dreamy, and then time is stretched and compressed at the same time. Now I enjoy it because I know it is my brain trying to protect me. Because what happens with depersonalization, what your brain is doing is that you're being introduced to like a new idea, new environment, new things, new emotions, new everything. So because it is so new to your brain automatically thinks that it is something dangerous that it has to like, protect you from. So all the times that I've had to experience new things that was so confusing to me, it was my brain registering it as something dangerous. So it was protecting me. So all this while, my brain wasn't fighting against me. My brain was protecting me. And it took therapy, and my therapist like let me understand that, and it is why I now enjoy it. And speaking to an immigrant who has come to a new country and everything is also new, and you've had to like experience this, there is nothing wrong with you. It is just your brain making sense of everything that is going on, and it's doing its job to protect you. So you are fine. I need you to recognize that you are fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Because I've come to understand that, like, there's nothing wrong with me. I am fine. My brain is working. My body is working the way it is supposed to work to protect me. And now that I have tools to be able to recognize what I'm going through, I'm able to, like, snap back into my body real quick and be present in those conversations and not lose those moments and add it to my experience as an immigrant in a new environment, and it has been so enriching. I am so blessed that I've been able to like live and experience three countries, but every time that it happens it feels like part of me is being uprooted, part of me is being forgotten, and it has given me this sense of fragmented identity. What I mean is, I feel like I belong nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And I truly believe is the reason why I am not as proficient as I would like to be in the four languages that I speak: English, Yoruba, Hausa, and Tree. Because of how exhausting it is to be like moving in those spaces, it's emotionally tiring that in order to protect my sanity, my emotions are numb. So, because my emotions are muted and numb, I am mostly questioning myself in every environment and in every situation if I should make meaningful connections, if I might end up moving in the first place. And then because of like that way of thinking, I didn't make a lot of friends. I isolated myself a lot. And because my emotions were numb, I isolated myself from a lot of social interactions. Like, even when I got invited to places by my brother or like my brother's wife, I would make excuses not to go because it was so exhausting having to like do the same thing over and over and over again in different places. I just didn't want to. I really didn't want to. Yeah. So how did I cope with it, and how am I coping with it? I think one of the very first thing that has really helped me is having a name to what I was feeling, because sometimes if you don't have a name to what you're feeling or a face to what you're feeling, it is hard for you to understand it. So having a name to what I'm feeling has made me be at peace with myself and kinder to myself, because now I understand what was happening was my brain protecting me. I realized that familiar voices brought me some kind of zen in here and here. So what I started doing was that I started posting more on my WhatsApp status, because I didn't know how to like come back to them after like I just isolated myself from all of them. So what I started doing was that I started posting more on my WhatsApp status so they would know that, like, oh, I still have your number. I did not block you. I'm here. I'm posting this. Say something so we could have a conversation. They started commenting on my WhatsApp status, and then I could call them and I could speak to them. And I realized hearing familiar voices and then still being able to like speak Chi with them and then speak Hausa with them and having some kind of connection back to like my roots really helped. One thing that has been of tremendous help has been therapy, because a professional would help you understand it better and give you all the tools you need to be able to be kinder to yourself, to understand what you're going through. If you are an immigrant or not even an immigrant, somebody who has had to endure depersonalization because you've been under an enormous amount of stress and your brain is protecting you, know that you're totally fine. Your brain is just doing what it's supposed to do. And be kinder to yourself and try and understand what depersonalization is and try and seek ways to be able to cope with it. Whether you are an immigrant or not, I hope this episode has given you an insight to what it is like to navigate different countries for me as an immigrant, and also for you as an immigrant, and also for you who is not an immigrant. I hope it has given you an insight to what it takes for people to navigate new cultures and new environment and some of the challenges that they go through with depersonalization as a cost of post-immigration stress. Thank you for spending time with me, and I would see you in the next video.